Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is a New England and Orlando wedding photographer and photo boother who loves pizza. He got his background shooting punk rock bands throughout America. Please welcome the photographer and co-owner of the DangerBooth, a wolf of all trades, Zac Wolf. What's going on, man?
Not much. Talking to you. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Can't complain. I appreciate you taking a lunch break with me. What's your usual go-to lunch or sandwich? Either one.
I'm really boring when it comes to lunch. I'm one of those psychos that could eat the same thing every single day. So it's literally some combination of like chicken, vegetable, rice, plus a different sauce sometimes. Boring. I just like to make it all in one batch at the beginning of the week and just like portion it out. I'm good at eating healthy at home. It's I just eating unhealthy out is my one vice.
I gotcha. So I'm curious, if that's like your constant, like does dinner or breakfast, like do those alternate or do anything like that you kind of like mix it up a little bit on, or is it pretty consistent with all your meals like that?
No, dinner's very frequently different. You know, whether it's a new recipe we want to try or a new restaurant we want to go to, you know, there's an insane amount of good food here, and I feel like I'm never caught up.
Yeah. No, and that's a good thing. That's actually a good thing. We actually have a running list on my wife's phone for that reason.
That's awesome. We should be that organized.
Well, we do it because we don't go out as often, and if we do, sometimes you know how it is. Sometimes you do go to like your favorite place and you go back to it. So whenever we have like a date night and we want to try something new, we go to the list and we like try to find places that people have recommended to us and stuff like that.
That's smart.
I know you started off doing, photographing punk bands as a hobby. How did you fall into wedding photography?
I went to Emerson in Boston for marketing. Yeah, no, I thought I was going to work at an ad agency one day.
Oh.
And so I used to shoot bands in South Florida and then moved to Boston, and like the Boston hardcore scene was kind of blowing up at that moment. Like it was kind of like the perfect timing, and people all over the world saw my photos, and it was very cool because, you know, not a ton of people were taking pictures at shows back then. And then someone just randomly was like, "Hey, can you shoot a wedding?"
No way.
And I was like, I've never been to one, but I can try. Because I was like 20, you know? So yeah, I tried it once and like saw that there was a lot of potential for creativity and like some, you know, using my skills from, like entrepreneurship and marketing and all that stuff. It was a real perfect storm of that. And I've never had another job. Like I by the time I was done with college, I was able to start shooting full time. So it's really what I love. And like during COVID, when they told us weddings were going away forever, I was like, I don't know if I'm good at anything else. So yeah, that's how I ended up there. I never in a million years would have guessed that that's what I ended up doing.
Wow. I could only imagine how nerve-wracking. I look at it as like a nerve-wracking to take pictures and be able to capture those moments. So like to have that as like your first thing, and then all of a sudden being like, hey, I think this is something I want to do, and keep doing it. And obviously as you did it, you get better and better at it. I know you started doing the wedding photography, I believe in New England as a photographer, and you currently live in Central Florida and Orlando. I'm curious, is there a difference, obviously besides, the location and temperatures and things like that, but have you noticed a difference between shooting weddings or shooting things in New England versus Central Florida, like the people or just certain things that are like they're wanting or expecting versus, from one location to the other?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of differences, in New England. I feel like things are maybe a little bit more subdued, and like the couples tend to be a little older, like mid-30s. And here the couples seem to be a little bit younger, and also they want to get lit. Like it's much more of like a party, go hard vibe, which is both are fun, and both have their place. Okay. And it's really interesting to see how different they are. And I know you said not the locations, but like the weddings locations here are so different than New England. New England is like barn or a ballroom. or this. And here it's just, there's way more diversity because you can do the ballroom, and then even the barns here, it's like a horse barn, not like an old New England barn. So it's like a very different vibe, and it's been really fun. I've been doing this for a long, long time, so it's fun to just get to experience something new for the first time, which doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah. And I know, like, timing wise, based on our conversations and stuff like that, like, I know you guys just recently moved. So like the last like 2 years or so, you guys moved back to Central Florida. So I'm assuming you've created such doing all that stuff while during your time in New England, you've created such a word of mouth and and people, like, reputation, that's kind of what's led you to keep coming back, having to go. Because I mean, I look at your social and you're constantly flying to New England for either a family session and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious, like, how do you book it, or how do you kind of organize that to be able to kind of do that? Because, and that's just the photography side. We're not even talking about the danger booth yet, like on that
Yeah.
aspect of it. But I'm like, on the photography, you being a photographer, how do you kind of manage that, or figure out the kind of like the balance of going traveling and coming back and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the beauty of it is the seasons in New England and Florida are opposite. So things are slow here, it's busy up there. This time of year, weddings are pretty much over for the Northeast because it's too cold, and they're picking up here. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, because I have so much word of mouth, because it's brides reaching out to me and they're like, "Oh, I was a bridesmaid at my friend's wedding 5 years ago, and I've been waiting to hire you." It's like, it's so hard. I'm not going to say no to these people because I still love the weddings up there. And the nice thing is, like, when I go, I get to like see my friends and do stuff, and it makes it so it doesn't feel like I even left, to be honest. Like, so many of my friends, I see them as much as I used to. Um, and then I get to leave here in August, which is great because it's gross and
Yeah.
hot here.
Yeah. That I never thought of it that way. That's awesome. It's kind of like a snowbird style.
Yes.
You're doing like a snowbird effect, and it keeps the business constantly going. I know what has been, and I know you had mentioned this, and I appreciate you kind of touching base on the fact, because when I was talking about location, was like, I didn't want you to be like, oh well, New England's like New England
Yeah.
and Florida's like Florida, but like I appreciate the fact that you like the different places you've done it. What's been the oddest or the funnest venue you've had to do, you've done a photo shoot for either like an engagement, an elopement, a wedding, something to that effect?
The big thing that I feel like is out of COVID, I think weddings are pretty much exactly the same. I don't think they've changed a lot, except the rise of restaurant weddings, which has been huge. I love it. It's the rare time you get good food at a wedding. It's always tends to be a smaller crew, which is more fun. And it's just, I've gotten to have some really, really great meals. And like the most recent restaurant wedding I shot is a place in Boston that I have friends that have been trying to get a reservation there for months and months and months. And I got to not only photograph this beautiful space, but like sit down and eat their incredible food. And, with these smaller weddings, with the way I shoot and the way I work with couples, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're having just one big table. Like, just sit with us if that's cool with you." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." And it was great. I ended up actually sitting next to like the bride's cousin who was from Tampa. So we just talked about Florida stuff the whole time, even though we were in Boston. It was great. It was beautiful.
That's super. That's fun. And I love the idea that people are going that route. Smaller weddings, better food. I mean, who doesn't? That's what you want. Those are the memorable things. One of the things that I read on your site, and I loved it. And so I was like, I kind of earmarked it in my note. I earmarked it in my notes. You wrote something like how you capture how someone feels. Can you explain or describe to someone like how you capture the look of how someone
Yeah,
feels?
I mean, there's the difference between like a great photographer and a great wedding photographer. To me, anyone could take nice photos. Like, it's the cameras have made it so easy, but it's being able to blend in at that 16-person wedding and capture the vibe, to be able to take a photo and it to immediately transport you back to a moment or the feeling of that space of that day. um like, it's so about not only how you photograph it, but how you're able to blend into the group, and also how you're able to curate that final gallery. For me, it is really important to create a final deliverable pretty much that covers everything and accurately represents the way things were, rather than just like, here's the same photos I shoot at every wedding, like whatever, here you go. I get couples that are different,
Yeah.
you know, different sizes, different genders, all sorts of stuff. And you can't just photograph everyone the same. You know what I mean? And it's like, if a couple is not super touchy
Yeah.
feely, I'm not going to make them do a bunch of kissing photos because that's not who they are. The line I always use is like, I want
Yeah.
you to look like the best version of yourself, but still look like you. Um, I'm not retouching bodies and stuff like that. Like, that's just not my thing.
No, I love that because I think to myself, like that's always a hard one because like even like when we do like me and my photographer, his name is Benjamin, and whenever we go and we've done photo shoots for like our to do clothes and stuff like that, we'll do like quick little shoots, and I always try to tell people because I'm kind of curious, like are there tips or things that you say, because some people feel like they're not photogenic, or they just kind of have like, a lot of times I'll tell them like, hey, just like you take pictures on your phone with your selfies on your phone, like that's what we're doing, like we're just having fun. Don't like make it, don't get in your head, like of like where you gotta like, I'm like, I just want you to feel like you be you wearing, doing normal things.
Yeah.
Like, is there something that you tell folks? Because like, I know, I'll be honest with you, I get in my own head sometimes because I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm a big guy, so I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to pose or do, and then I gets like, then it just looks like you said, like canned
Yeah.
photos is usually what ends up happening.
Yeah, for me, it's really about that relationship again, where it's like, I put so much of myself out there, where it's like, when you're hiring Zac Wolf Photography as your wedding photographer, it's me. Like, it's not sending an associate out or doing something like that. And really, like during portraits and stuff, we're just talking. We're just shooting the shit. We're just, goofing around, having fun, making jokes. Mostly a lot of me making fun of myself. And just like, not worrying about it. Like, I try to tell them, like, we're going to take thousands of photos and you're only going to see the great ones. That's a huge part of that curation again, where it's like, it's my job to make you forget I'm here, and that just like, oh, Zac's here hanging out, not Zac is here to photograph. So many,
Yeah.
when I'm shooting a wedding or shooting an event, they're like, oh, how long have you guys been friends? Which is true often. Like, we're often friends, but that's the goal, is I want to blend in as a friend and not as a vendor.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important, and I think that's something that I think you need and to be able to cherish, because especially for a wedding photo or engagement photo, those are all things that you have, like, post printed up and in your house and displayed for others to see and be able to experience those things. So I definitely agree with that. I mentioned like, when I was saying like how I sometimes tell people like using their iPhones and stuff like that, and I know you and I were kind of talking about it, how a lot more people are asking friends sometimes to be like, hey, I'll just ask my friends to capture photos, and capture those moments on their phones. Can we talk a little bit about the importance of what you do and the fact of that? And I know you've kind of heightened it, but I kind of want to like drive it home in the sense of like why a professional photographer to take photos of your big life events is so important, because I just think it's something that can't be stressed enough. I mean, obviously if you don't have the budget, I get it, but if you do have the budget, I love for people to kind of understand, at least from your perspective, on why it's so important.
Yeah, for me, it's about experience. One of the big things I mentioned was like, anyone could be a good photographer, but being a good wedding photographer is so different. I not only take photos, but I'm doing timeline management and I'm doing personality management, because when your aunt wants a photo of all the cousins, but we don't have time, I can be there. I know how to work with people and kind of keep them from, taking over the day or wasting time. And, especially being on the other side, when we got married, I really learned the value of making sure a couple has time with their guests. We had a 70-person wedding, nothing crazy. And like, the end of the night, we had bought all these fireworks. We're like, we're going to do some crazy nighttime shot. And I was just like, I'm good. I want to spend time with my friends. And it's, to me, working with my couples, I'm very open with them, being like, yeah, if you only want to give me 20 minutes for portraits, I can make that work. You know what I mean? Or if like, I'm like, there's this really cool sunset, give me 2 minutes. They'll trust me
Yeah.
and they know that I'm only doing it in their best interest. And not only like on the day of, but leading up to and after, having that experience where it's like, I've seen pretty much everything at this point. I'm ready for whatever. You know, the line I used to use is like, if I can make a shithole in Little Haiti in Miami look good, like from shooting punk shows, I can make your beautiful wedding venue look great. Um, and not only that, but like
Yeah.
I doing my mentorship stuff, I've been working with someone who lost all of a couple's photos because they didn't know the proper way to back up, media. And it's like, it's fun to be a silly person and have cool photos on Instagram, but like at the end of the day, it's not just a couple shoot. It's one and done. I've literally had emails after a wedding 2 weeks later. This person who was at the wedding died. Do you have any extra photos of them? Or do you have photos that you can share with us for the funeral? And it's like, it's so important. Like, I have photos that I took. That's the
Wow.
last photos I took of people, you know what I mean? That were ever taken of them. And it's like, I make sure to get as many of the guests as possible. And the thing I always stress to photographers and even the second shooters I work with is like, anyone over 60 gets a portrait. We're going to just grab them for a second and take a nice photo of them because you never know. If I had time, would I do every single guest? Sure. But that's not, reasonable. But I just try to make sure to get everything that's going on and not just the predetermined moments because you never know. You never know if that guy who doesn't like to be on the dance floor,
Yeah.
like maybe he's never had a photo taken of him.
No, I never thought of that. And and when you say things like that, that's like, it's kind of crazy when you're like, no, that's the last photo that the person took before they passed, which is insane. I know in a lot of weddings there's photo
Mm-hmm.
booths and like the photo style booths at like events and stuff like that. And I know that you and your wife Becca, kind of leaned into this concept, into making it something where you guys then created the Danger Booth. Can you tell people a little bit about the Danger Booth and what the options that you offer and why, like kind of like give a little bit of an origin story onto it, and then what you guys do with it?
Yeah, so it kind of all started out of weddings, like you guessed. Back in 2010, I think I started it because the weddings I was photographing, everyone wanted table photos where you would go around to each table and take photos, and I didn't want to do that. I definitely had a little bit of an ego to begin with, and I was just like, let me build a photo booth. And I built the very first version, and it was 100 pounds and made of wood and had physical remotes. And then I was given the opportunity to buy a photo booth with a touchscreen, with printing and all that type of modern goodness. And that's when Becca came on board and we kind of really took off with that. We really were going after private events, but also doing corporate work. And I would say, we were doing 100 to 200 events a year pre-COVID. And then in 2016, we started offering headshots. So a company had reached out to me being like, hey, we hire, 80 people a month and we need you to get photos of all of them in under an hour and a half. And I was like, that's not really reasonable for me to do. But in a photo booth setting, that's possible. It's not going to be an incredible portrait of your CEO, but it's going to be a great photo of someone who's never had a new Slack photo since, 1996 or whatever. We get so many people that are, look completely different than they do in their headshot. And that kind of took off. And then when we decided to move here to Orlando and during COVID and everything, we kind of pivoted to headshots are kind of our main thing now. We do every type of event, conference, convention, sales kickoffs, because everyone needs a new headshot, especially with everything being remote now. There's one time a year that everyone's together and they need new headshots because they're not meeting these people in person anymore. So that really became the main thing. We do still a handful of private events every year. We offer a lower end pop-up booth for local events. We do all the Pride and City games, that kind of stuff. We do a bunch of the Solar Bears games, and that's great. But our bread and butter is truly headshots, and it's been really great because it's not only a chance for us to, I get to travel all over and do all that type of stuff, but it's fun to get people see their reaction when they get their photo. They go in, they go, I'm not photogenic. I've never, da da da. Okay, cool. So come over here, stand like this. And it's just like, oh, they've never been photographed properly. That's why they're not photogenic, because they're used to their friends who don't know how to take photos, taking an iPhone or an Android photo, and then it looks like shit because they don't know what they're doing. And that's fine. But it's really reassuring to watch people get like a little ego boost and go, oh, I look good.
No, I love that, and I love the fact that you guys have like the two options of that, like the pop up booth, and like the headshot. You guys call it headshot lounge, I think
Yeah.
is what you guys call
Yeah.
it, where you guys can set up and do that. And I was like, and I was looking on the site, on the Danger Booth site, and I like saw how like how obviously different the two setups are, when it comes to it, but like how beautiful it is to be able to see all the different headshots in the background colors, and it just kind of everyone just pops. It's super fun. I was actually thinking to myself, I'm like, why doesn't like, especially since you say you do like the solar bears in the city game, I'm like, how does UCF not have like a pop-up booth at their football games every game? I'm like, that would be like a fun thing to do, or use something like that at those events. So I'll be definitely sharing with my UCF folks to kind of be like, hey, how come this is not happening, or using something like
Yeah.
this? Because you guys would be great to go
The
over there.
goal is to be
Um,
everywhere.
why do you think everyone deserves a great headshot? Yeah, that is the goal. That is the goal. So do you have, okay, before I ask the headshot
Yeah.
question, because you asked when you said that, since the goal is to be everywhere, do you have multiples, like where you can have like, when you sometimes can have like, hey, we have like 4 events going on and I got like 2 pop-up booths at these parties or whatever, and then I'm doing headshot lounge in like 2 other
Yeah.
places? Like, are you guys scattered to that point?
Yeah, we
Um,
have 5 photo booths, and then 3 of the pop-ups and 2 of the headshot
okay.
lounges. And we've done events, where there's events happening all over the country, but even larger scale events where there's 2 pop-up booths or 2 headshot lounges. We used to do a convention up in Boston, and it was like a 10,000 person convention, and we had 2 headshot lounges set up for 3 days for 8 hours a day, and it consistently had a 20+ minute line.
Wow.
Both booths. Like, it was nonstop. I was managing then because we had, people we'd hired to run the booth, and I was just there to like give everyone breaks and check on people and switch out paper and, kind of be on top of everything. And it was a real trial in management and like making sure everyone's good and being a good boss. And we killed it. We ended up doing great. My wife has project management background, and I come from, working directly with a lot of people and that type and entrepreneurship. And we kind of take care of our people. Like, that's our big thing. Back in Boston, we had attendants for 5-10 years, and like some of them paid for their honeymoons with the money they made from working Danger Booth events after work and stuff like that. So it's really fun. We
Wow.
love doing it.
That's
And
awesome.
like, also we get to build relationships, with Pride and City. We're friends with the people who hire us now, because we've worked with them for so long. And like, for the headshot lounge stuff, these event
Yeah.
planners, we work with them multiple times a year. And it's like, oh, cool, we're all in Denver. Do you want to go get dinner after? Great. Because we both don't know anyone here. And it's nice to be able to like have a friend when you're in a new
Yeah.
place.
No, I think it's great. You guys have done like over 1,000. I think I saw you guys celebrated 10 years, over 1,000
Mm-hmm.
events. I think one of the numbers that kind of made me, I was like, whoa, I was like close to like over half a million photos, probably more, probably close to a million by now.
Yes.
But I mean, those are some insane numbers and insane things to think about. But I also love the fact, and one of the things that I saw on your website that I thought, and it didn't hit me, and I was like, wow, this is great, because you also have instant gratification on a lot of those things, like the pop-up booths, because you can then now people can then, oh, send me your picture, set the text or whatever. But then now that is something that someone who uses you can actually use that as well for marketing, to be able to reach out to those folks, to be able to say, hey, we got activities and things like that going on. Like the city, Orlando City or something like that, or Solar Bears can be like, hey, we got things going on if you're interested. Or you could even use that for when you guys are doing events at other events, that your guys, the smaller events or even bigger events, conferences and stuff like that,
Yeah,
right?
the big thing that we push is like, it's a fully customizable experience. Everything can be branded. And then, the advantage for the companies hiring us, not only are they, giving people great photos and putting stuff out there, but there is data collection. At the end of the day, they're getting phone numbers, they're getting email addresses they can
Yeah.
use. And it's oftentimes the real one that they use rather than just like a spam one, because they want to get their photos. So they're using their
Yeah.
real email so
Yeah.
they get their stuff, not just so they get through to the next page or whatever.
You mentioned that you do some mentorship, one-on-one mentorships sessions. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that, as well as also the importance of like efficiency in your line of work?
Yeah. So I started offering this during COVID. I've been shooting weddings for, 10 years now, over 10 years. And it's been, I've seen it all, and I've made mistakes and I've watched others make mistakes. And it's really fun for me to kind of like walk someone through, like figure out what problems they're experiencing and what we can do to make their lives easier. I've always been a big fan of like one of the greatest perks of being a wedding photographer, working for yourself in general, is you're able to not feel the pressure of a boss breathing down your neck. But also, one of the challenges is there's no boss breathing down your neck. So you want to come through for your clients, you want to grow your business, but you don't want it to take up 90 hours a week or whatever, people are working. And finding ways to be efficient that also serve their customers better, make things easier for their couples and stuff like that. Literally, things as small as like, stop making people send you a check. Just take a credit card. It'll make your life easier and their life easier. It's worth the 3%, stuff like that, where it's kind of obvious to someone who's been doing this for a while. But when you're inside looking out, it's just like, no, like, why would I do that? So often, even myself, I was able to early on, the New England wedding community was so great. It was really, really special, especially around, the time that I went full time, around 2011, 2012. And we all met up, a bunch of us, every month and talked and worked with each other. And like, I got to learn from people who'd been doing it a lot longer than me. And it was, things I still use today, from like processes to even like silly stuff like file naming, but that's all paid off. And if I can spread that, it's really fun for me. It's seeing the photographers I've worked with not only like have more time for their family and like have more time for their friends, but like make more money. Cause that's like I love it. I'm passionate about it. It is a job. I am here to make money, and live the life I want to live. So
Yep.
There's a way to find the sweet spot where you're just working as much as you need to, but not killing yourself, but your clients are still getting the, incredible experience they deserve.
I think those are all worth its price to be able to, the knowledge share, to be able to make them a little bit more efficient. I think that's awesome. Before we started talking, I had brought up, because like I think we had seen each other a few times before, but when we first met, I had seen you around town, but the first time I actually got to actually chat with you was the first time I was officiating a wedding for the folks over for Travis and Elizabeth at Black Magic. You were their photographer. And then after that, I started seeing you obviously more often, because you do the photo booth, the pop-up booth for the Danger Booth shows up at Creative Mornings when you go, which I think is great. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of word of mouth, because I feel like you're a little bit everywhere. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that, and like why it's so important to have like that word of mouth and the fact of community.
Yeah, word of mouth is truly everything for me. It's so much more of a trustworthy source for people, especially with weddings, where it's like, I don't know, these people have never planned a wedding before. 99% of my couples, it's their first time booking a photographer, let alone planning a wedding. So how do you know who to trust? Because like we talked about, like anyone could post 10 nice photos on Instagram. What does that mean? So going from there, being like, I saw my friend's wedding photos and I asked her, about her experience or his experience. And they said, working with Zac was so great, and I felt special and I felt really taken care of, and I knew I could trust you. Great. I'm pretty much, when I'm photographing a wedding, performing in front of 100+ people, because everyone's, maybe not as much as I'm watching a photographer, but
Yeah.
everyone sees what I'm doing and everyone sees how I'm interacting with people and sees how I'm photographing the ceremony. And then you see the photos after and you're like, oh, okay, like he got all that stuff and wasn't in the way, or was I didn't realize he would get that, or stuff like that. We're just like, oh, you blended in as like a friend rather than like a vendor showing up with like a giant logo on your back or something. Stuff like that. And then with DangerBooth, like word of mouth has been so powerful because the headshot lounge is not really something that most people have seen before. Truly, we're not the only ones doing it. There's people do headshots at conventions, sure, but when you say like photo booth headshots, they're like, oh, like whatever, like those probably, and then they see it and they do it for the first time, like, oh, this is good. Like this is a real headshot, not just some crappy photo.
Yeah.
And I literally have been traveling around Orlando, going and meeting with event planners and being like, let me set this up in your office and show you how it works. And then they go, oh, okay. And then they start recommending us to their clients and they start wanting to work with us. It's kind of, you got to see it to believe it almost. And I try to show and not tell,
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. No, I think that's super important. I know you mentioned, once you get efficient, you get more free time and things like that. What do you do when you're not traveling up north or doing conventions or events? What do you do for your free time? What are some free time things that Zac and Becca do when you're not working and taking photos of people?
So with traveling as much as we do for work, we travel a lot less for fun these days, but we still do it. Because it feels like work sometimes after being on 60 plus flights a year. I'm just like, I just want to be home, especially, this time of year when it's beautiful here and disgusting everywhere else. Like it's been great. We are big on like local stuff. A lot of, all the markets and stuff have been awesome. We really got bummed our last few years in Boston because the community kind of fell apart because it was so expensive to do things and run businesses in the city that everything got so scattered that we didn't really do much. So being able to go to, a friend's store and there's a market in front and get to hang out and like see people and like you said, like you see me all the time. It's like there genuinely feels like a community here where it's a lot of the familiar faces, which is really fun for me. We definitely, I'm a dork about theme park stuff, so we do that a lot. That's always fun. And then I've like in the past 10 years gotten into like fitness stuff. So started doing CrossFit at a friend's gym and then had never worked out in my life until like right before our wedding. And then now it's just like a given as part of my life, which is really fun. And part of traveling is fun because I get to just like try different gyms around the country, which is funny. But yeah, I mean, in our free time, we have a dog. We like to bring him places because everyone likes to see him. But yeah, that's, a lot of eating.
He's a corgi,
he is a corgi,
right?
Yeah, he is a long boy.
Yeah. Is he Marty? I think is his name Marty McFly? Is that his name, Marty?
Marty McFloof.
Marty McFloof. That's what it was.
His full legal name is Martin McFloof.
Yes. which is fantastic. I love it. And he has his own Instagram.
He does. I'm not so good at running it.
As well. And your cat has an Instagram, I believe.
They both do. We're not great at running it. We used to post a lot and now it's like
you're busy.
It's fun. Sometimes I remember to post on it. We're busy. And it's, I'd rather, if I'm going to take the time to make a reel or do a TikTok, I should do it on my page or DangerBooth's page where it's going to like help our business.
Yes, exactly.
It is like we said, when you're working for yourself, it's hard to turn it off. Mm-hmm. And it's also, I don't have anyone telling me to do things, so I have to tell myself.
When that at the same time though, like how hard is that? Like, are you through the years, have you gotten pretty good at not having like that, being able to have that balance switch of being able to turn it off and not think, you know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people sometimes get into that mode where they either feel guilty or they feel like they always have to be on to do work stuff and they don't turn it off. Have you how have you been able to kind of balance that aspect of it where it's like you're put, or at least in a good spot where you can be like, I'm gonna turn it off now and actually just enjoy the theme parks and do that instead of like, being on my phone, maybe doing a reel or
Yeah.
answering a DM or something like that.
The beauty of being a wedding photographer and running a photo booth company is there's no such thing as emergencies. Like unless it's the wedding day or the day of the event, like there's nothing I can do that'll change things. Any email can wait
Yeah.
24 hours. And learning that was a huge game changer for me to not be like as like I need to be ready in case something happens.
Yeah.
It's like what's going to happen if someone, even if as tragically as someone cancels their wedding, okay, it's not the wedding day, like it's we can handle
Yeah.
it, like it can I can get to this email when I get home.
Yeah.
um and so stuff like that where it's learning to streamline my workflow, like not to get too technical, but like learning how to still deliver 700 great photos from a wedding but not spend 20 days editing them nonstop is a game changer, because you kind of learn like what you should focus on and what's most important. When I realized like couples, like I started outsourcing my editing 7 years ago, plus maybe 10 years ago, because the fact was I knew I was slow at it and I had developed my style and figured out what I like photos to look like, and I trained someone to do it for me, because the fact of the matter is like couples don't care who edits their photos. They care that it's edited in the style they're promised and that it's delivered to them. It's the most important part is focusing on being there
Yeah.
for them. um, and of course, like I'm not delivering photos I don't look at. It's never just like send it out, send it out. No, like I'm still going through and doing my thing. But once teaching other photographers about that and teaching even just like other business owners that like if there's something you're not good at, then outsource it to someone
Yeah.
who is. You know, spend the money to pay someone, but then you'll make the money back or you won't and you'll just have more time that you
Yeah.
enjoy.
No, I love that, dude. That's super super prime information there. I know you mentioned theme parks. Do you have a favorite theme park of in the out of the Orlando theme park since we have so many?
Out of the Orlando parks, Epcot, because I'm boring and I love nostalgia and I love living with the
Okay.
land. But my favorite in the world is Tokyo Disney Sea. I love that park. I've been twice now. I it's set the bar for any theme park ever. It's incredible, and if anyone gets the chance to visit.
What ride over there is like your favorite over there?
So my favorite ride is Sinbad, which is a dark ride that's ton of animatronics. It's like the journey of Sinbad. It's very cute. Alan Menken wrote the song for it. It's
Okay.
in Japanese, but it's incredible. But the truth is, like, it's not about the rides there. It's about the vibes. And like that seems crazy, but it's just like it's so nice. And all the guests are so considerate and all the employees are like they're good here, but they're like truly on another level in Japan. I have a friend we went with and he's a bigger guy. And instead of putting him in a seat in front of everyone to see if he could fit on the ride, they like took him backstage so he could check privately and not be
Wow.
embarrassed that like he didn't care. Like he's like, whatever, like, because we just randomly lost him.
Yeah.
But it was so, when you think about it, like, probably for like bigger people, that's an embarrassing thing. You think about, the test seat for Tron and like everyone's trying to take photos on it and you're like, I'm just trying to see if I can fit.
Just
And
can
like
get
that's
on
got
it.
to be
Yeah.
so hard. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
the
crazy.
Japan parks are, there's nothing like them.
So thanks because you just added more. My best friend works at those. He's an Imagineer there, and so he's open. He opened the last three new rides over there. So he's been telling me to go visit, and we've been wanting to. But it's also funny because he also told me right off the bat. He's like, just letting you know, he's like, you're gonna want to change. You can't go in like, he goes, you should see how these people come dressed. Like they come dressed to impress at the theme parks. He's like, it's not like you're wearing like how it is in Florida, you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt to it. He's like, just so you know. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, and I've seen some of the pictures of some of the guests. It's pretty amazing what they do. So that's pretty interesting. The other thing that I read about, and I want to, I can't leave you without talking about it, because you say you're a pizza connoisseur, so I kind of need to know what's your like go-to pizza. Do you have like certain things that you, when you go to have pizza at locations or somewhere, is there like a particular slice or a particular things you're looking for? Tell me, give me your stance on like what makes good pizza and what you're looking for.
I mean, I would say I appreciate all forms. You know, everything. I think I have the hot take of Domino's has a place at the table. I think there's situations where it's like, do you like Mexican food? Yes. Do you like Taco Bell? Yes. Are they similar but different things? Yes. So it's like, if you want
Yeah.
pizza, you're maybe not getting Domino's, but sometimes you want Domino's. We actually
Mm-hmm.
surprised our guests at our wedding with Domino's, and it was great. My best slice I've ever had is DeFera in Brooklyn. Dom DeMarco was the chef there. He recently died. He truly was like, they he made all the pizzas. They imported all the ingredients from his town in Italy, and then they would close in the middle of the day for 2 hours so he could take a nap. And it was like, the last time we went, he winked at me, and I was just like gonna cry. And it's just truly an incredible piece of pizza. Locally,
Yeah,
I'm a stand for our boy Black Magic Pizza.
it's one of my
I
favorite pizzas.
love. Ready for them to have a sit down restaurant so I can stop bringing it home.
Yep. What do you usually get when you order there?
I try to mix it up. The pepperoni, the Doctoroni's is classic. Like, you can't go wrong. That's pretty much always. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it's,
Yep.
it's kind of fun to explore different types of pizza. I've, been to Chicago, but we did the Chicago pizza tour, which was great because you got to see, okay, here's the deep dish, that like the touristy, whatever, but here's tavern style. And I was like, oh shit, this
That's
is
it.
good.
That's good.
Like, tavern style
Yes.
is a real hidden gem.
Yes.
Um, and then I photographed a wedding in Milwaukee and went to their like pizza place that had been there forever. And it was so different. So it's fun. And, I was recently up in Brooklyn and got one of the new spots that's like really, really hyped, and it was great. So definitely lived up to like Lindustry. I don't know how you pronounce it, but they had burrata on the pizza. It was incredible.
Okay. What that yeah, the tavern style. I just had that in Chicago because someone asked me if I was gonna have. I went to Chicago a few months ago, and that was like the big thing was like, are you gonna have deep dish? And I was like, no, I don't really appreciate deep dish as much. And they're like, oh, no, you need to have tavern style. And then once I had that, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm eating. That and chopped salad. Those are like the two things I'm like, where we go and like we'll have when we go to Chicago. And obviously like the sandwiches. Obviously I have quite a bit of sandwiches when I'm in Chicago. Um, but no, I love that.
Yeah. I would be I would be sad if I didn't mention my favorite style pizza
Please,
though. I can't believe I didn't even think of this. So, on the South Shore of Massachusetts, so like south of Boston in the suburbs, there is a unique style of pizza called bar pizza. And it is made in like little individual pan pizzas, and it's made with a mix of cheddar and mozzarella. And there's a bunch of different spots that do it kind of their own way. And for my last birthday, we celebrated in Boston. My wife curated a bar pizza tour, and we went to all the different spots and checked them out and had like a control, but then also their signature one, which includes, I believe it was Cape Cod pizza that has a bean pizza.
really.
Surprisingly good. Surprisingly, it was like a baked bean. It was a little sweet. It was good. But Town Spa in Stoughton, Massachusetts is probably one of the pizza places I've been to the most, and also just like so special to me. It's The first time I went, I was doing, this is back when I was shooting bands. I was doing promo photos for a band in the graveyard across the street. And then they were like, "Cool, we're gonna go get pizza here. You should come try it." And I was like, "Okay." And I go all the time, and it's a staple for my Boston friends.
I need to now look this up because I've been to Boston quite a few times and I've never had bar pizza. So when you say it's like pan pizza, is it kind of like square, almost like a Elio's style, like or like like those like where it's like a square pizza, or is it still round, or is it kind of like
It's still it's still
okay,
round, and then there's laced edges, which is like it's a little like fried
yeah,
on the side, so it's like crispy. I think they put butter on the edge, and then like a little, is it cheese maybe? But you get like this like lace that comes up. It's great. It's also one of those places where there's like a secret way to order. So whenever like I tell someone to go and I go, okay, this is how you have to get it. You get it. Burn edges, extra crispy, like, and that's it's on the menu, but it's not really explained.
okay.
So it's kind of an if you know, you know, and it's been there forever. It's cash only, and it's has like a massive capacity. It's probably, you know, one of the staples of Southern Massachusetts that's not like on the Cape or like actually
Okay.
historic.
I love that. I love that. That I next time I go to Boston, I am Massachusetts. I will be reaching out and asking you for what's my order for that. Um, what advice do you have for
For
someone
sure.
wanting to start some?
You know, if it's, I always say, if it's something that the worst situation is it just doesn't work out, then you should go for it. You know, we've been very fortunate to have run very low overhead businesses. So our risk when we try things is very low. So we tend to try stuff a lot. Um, we're very fortunate to not have physical space, which I can't imagine my friends who own businesses that have a space. That's a lot of pressure. You have a huge bill due. For us, we try things, we buy equipment, we try them, we try new ways to market, new ways to do stuff. At weddings, I'm trying new stuff every single time. And you know, when I meet people, especially younger people, and it's like, just try. You have no risk. You know, when I went full time into wedding photography, I was 22, and I was like, yeah, if this doesn't work, I just get a job. Like, it's fine. Let me just try. I have the money, I have the work. And that's kind of, you know, the beauty of like right now, if you hustle at something and you really put everything behind it, like there is a chance
Yeah.
that you can make it. And even if you're doing the weirdest stuff, you know, there's people out there doing stuff that would never work 10 years ago. And now because of the internet and social media and stuff, like, oh, you know, you love sandwiches. Well, I know somebody who sells
Yeah.
sandwich t-shirts, you know, and now you're easily accessible versus before, you know, oh, okay, you got to go to the market. You got to find him in person. You got to hope he's there. Okay. Hope he has the shirt you want and the size you want. No, now it's just like, we're ready. Look at that. Look at that
Yeah.
inventory you got behind you. You're
I'm
ready to
ready.
ship.
I'm definitely ready to ship. Um, where can people follow you? Where can they find you online and see your work? Hire you guys? What's give some of the socials information. Obviously, it'll be in the show notes, but I figure if they're listening now and they're scrolling on their phone, they can definitely check it out and start giving you a follow.
Yeah. Everywhere. I'm just Zac X Wolf, ZAC X Wolf. That's kind of since my show days, since you know trying to be straight edge and being straight edge. I don't know why I'm trying, um, you know, and bragging about that. So that's me everywhere. ZachXWolf.com, Zac X Wolf on Instagram, and then the Danger Booth everywhere else. Again, we're easy to find. I fortunately was born with a name that is very easy to remember, and I think that has definitely helped in my career. Because like, oh, you're the photo guy, yeah, like I know you. So yeah, we're easy to find. You know, always reach out. It's us. You know,
Yeah.
there's no wall.
Yeah.
We're
Reach
accessible.
out to us. It'll be us answering the DM. Um, Zac,
Yeah,
I really appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate getting to hang out with you and talk to you more and more every single time. I love what you're doing and what you've created. I think the Danger Booth is a phenomenal idea in the sense of how you're using it and what you're doing it for. Not to mention being able to incorporate it as like another. I think it's like another branch of like what you know. It's kind of like you get to create another form of business from something that you started with. So I think it's awesome. So I definitely appreciate that. That's our show for today. Thank you so much to Zac Wolf of the Danger Booth and Zac Wolf Photography for being on. If definitely make sure to check them out online. You know, if you do, I'd love to see some photos. If if you have photos from it, you know, tag us on it. I'd love to see photos that you've taken. If you, whether you've been to a city game or a conference, or if you got a headshot, I'd love to see headshots. I may need to get a headshot, so I may need to figure something out with Zac on that. Definitely make sure to you know, to follow. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends. If you want to support my brand, check out Deli Fresh Threads, obviously sandwich selfies, or heck, if you go get pizza in South Massachusetts and you get one of those, is it a box pizza? I want to see a picture of that because I have yet to see one. What is
Bar
it?
pizza.
Bar pizza. Yeah, if you have a bar pizza, I
Bar
want to see a
pizza.
picture of bar pizza, please, because I do enjoy anything handheld. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion.